Hello, I'm Kristina Amelong from Optimal Health Network, and I'm going to go over in detail the hair tissue mineral analysis ratio worksheet. The first ratio on the hair analysis ratio worksheet is the calcium to magnesium ratio. And what this ratio gives us information about is blood sugar regulation, whether one is overeating carbohydrates, how well you're digesting your carbohydrates, how your pancreas is doing, if you're having issues with insulin resistance. Also, with this ratio, we can have insight into your adrenal health through, if you have a low ratio, then it's pointing to a hidden Na to K inversion. This ratio is ideal around 6.67. The good range is between 3.3 to 10. I see people having numbers 20 to 30. I also more rarely see people having numbers in the 2s or lower. We'll address this ratio with multiple therapeutics, like changing the diet is a core response to this ratio being off. Also, using therapeutics like Gymnema to help improve insulin receptivity so that the insulin receptor sites are working better. That is another optimal response to this ratio. Another issue that this ratio tells us about is the fact that the calcium is high and that the cells need support with the ATP cycle. Moving on to the second ratio, we have the calcium to potassium ratio, and that ratio both defines the oxidation rate, which is an indication of a person's metabolism, but it also talks about the health of the thyroid. The optimal ratio is a 4, and the range is 3 to 8. Again, I see this quite high, often above 50, 60, and if it's high, it's showing us that the thyroid is having decreased thyroid effect at the cellular level. Again, it gives us insight into cellular function and the Krebs cycle and how well the cells are working overall. If the ratio is low, it's pointing to basically hyperthyroidism and that the thyroid is fighting against toxicity in the body. With an imbalance in the calcium to potassium ratio, I'll often recommend therapeutics like ashwagandha, ratio of calcium to potassium that's off also is reflected in a low selenium. So selenium is another nutrient that can help restore this ratio. And if the ratio is low, then we'll want to work on detoxing the body with things like charcoal or zeolite. Moving on to the sodium to magnesium ratio, that's the first of the 2 adrenal ratios, and your ideal ratio is 4.17, with the good range being between 3 to 6. This is another ratio that gives us insight into the oxidation rate, metabolism, and also tells us how well the body is handling stress and how much the body is being affected by toxicity. It also points to whether or not the person needs magnesium or is taking too much magnesium. If I see a high ratio, I will often recommend a different kind of detox protocol, magnesium supplementation. A low ratio will often require therapeutics for the adrenal glands like licorice root or vitamin C, for instance. With the next adrenal ratio, the sodium to potassium, That is the most important ratio, and that one's ideal range is 2.5, with the optimal range being between 2.3 to 5. And if we see a high ratio, we again have a body that's fighting hard to deal with toxicity in the body, and so we'll want to work on detoxification in a unique way. But also a high ratio with this sodium to potassium points to inflammatory responses in the body, and the body reacting to stress. So anti-inflammatories from LDN to turmeric might be used, fish oil. If we have a low ratio, that is pointing to adrenal fatigue, but also because this ratio has to do with the way energy is being used in the tissues, it also points to things like decreased immunity, difficulty with digestion, allergies, liver and kidney stress. So in addition to supporting the adrenal glands, we might want to work on emotional issues, as well as things like improving digestion or improving liver, gallbladder health, kidney health. Moving on to the zinc to copper ratio, that ratio is all about hormones, as well as either copper toxicity, hidden copper toxicity, biounavailable copper. So with that ratio being high, which is very common, we might have to do things like support the body's capacity to deal with the copper issues, or we need to work on a hormonal protocol that optimizes both female and male hormones. If it's low, then we want to work on optimizing the zinc, as well as dealing with things like estrogen dominance, or again, any kind of unresolved emotional issues. Moving on to the calcium to phosphorus ratio, that ratio is about protein usage and how well a person is digesting their protein and integrating their protein into their body to make new tissues and rebuild and repair. So if that ratio is off, we might need to increase the protein or add in digestive support for digesting the protein. If you need any more support with your health around your tissue mineral analysis, you can reach out to us at Optimal Health Network, calling us or texting us at 608-242-0200. We would be honored to support you in your health journey.